During our final university year, while hanging out with friends, I encountered Sarah celebrating her 21st birthday at a local Nashville club. Literally colliding with her table as I walked by, I inadvertently spilled her drink into her lap. After a few awkward moments, I apologized, and as we conversed while cleaning up, I couldn't help but ponder the concept of love at first sight. Nevertheless, I believe a unique chemistry pulled us together like a magnet. From that night onward, we commenced dating and never spent time apart. A year later, we exchanged vows, marking the beginning of our shared life. I'm Jonathan, but my friends call me Johnny. Armed with an accounting degree, I became a certified public accountant at a prominent Atlanta firm, where Sarah and I settled near our family. After gaining experience in the corporate realm, I ventured out to establish my own firm. Sarah, holding a business administration degree, supported me during the initial 2 years until the joyous news of our daughter, Angel's impending arrival. Our relationship mirrored a fairy tale, with an enduring love that persisted as we welcomed Angel into our lives. Over the subsequent decade, we embraced the routine of a typical family life. My focus on business growth, while Sarah managed household affairs and raised our daughter. Our bed life was a source of contentment, with a frequency of at least 3 times a week. Describing our connection as pure love, our feelings were deep and sensual. Avoiding experimentation or intense encounters out of mutual respect, we found joy in our shared experiences. Sarah found pleasure in lingual stimulation, a preference I gladly fulfilled, though she reserved lingual pleasure for special occasions, happening less than 10 times during our marriage. Content with our life, I refrained from pressuring her, cherishing the harmony in our relationship. Sarah's constant attentiveness, evident from the day we exchanged vows, manifested in kisses, hugs, and shared moments whenever we were together. The incredible closeness in our marriage filled every second with love. Despite friends' initial skepticism, claiming our affection wouldn't endure, they eventually recognized the uniqueness of our bond after a decade. When Angel turned 10, Sarah expressed her desire to return to work. With Angel's established routine and daily return from school at 3:30 p.m., Sarah conveyed her reluctance to stay at home daily, expressing a yearning to rejoin the workforce. After extensive discussions, we reached an agreement and formulated a plan to ensure Angel received the attention a 10-year-old girl needed. Sarah secured a position as a personal assistant to William, a lawyer 10 years her senior. The job's favorable hours allowed Sarah to be home by 4 o'clock every day, maintaining her presence for Angel. Our family grew stronger over time. Residing in a comfortable apartment within an upscale complex with country club membership, our financial stability allowed us to save for Angel's college and our retirement. We lived a blessed life, free from health, financial, and happiness concerns. As expected, our bed life underwent changes after a decade of marriage, slowing down from 3 to 4 times a week to only twice, typically on Friday and Saturday nights. While we became somewhat predictable, our love endured, and we continued to revel in our closeness. Sarah's unwavering attentiveness and displays of love persisted throughout the years, making our shared closeness more fulfilling than our physical expressions of love. Receiving spontaneous kisses and hugs, along with acknowledgement for her love, overwhelmed me. It constituted the most significant aspect of our marriage. I reciprocated the affection, but Sarah consistently ensured I understood the depth of her love. Angel joined the math club, staying after hours and returning home around 5 p.m. Simultaneously, Sarah began working late 2 nights a week, coinciding with Angel's schedule. We avoided leaving her alone at that age, ensuring our schedules matched. William, Sarah's boss, earned a promotion to senior partner in his father-in-law's firm. Consequently, Sarah worked a few extra hours on Tuesday and Thursday nights, returning home by 7 p.m. On these nights, I ensured dinner was ready for her after her long workday. Other than those 2 nights, everything in our marriage remained unchanged. My business was thriving, generating a good income as the company expanded to 45 employees. We became a well-known and respected accounting firm, becoming a target for acquisition or merger with larger firms in the area. At 15, Angel began contemplating college and her future. Sarah still worked for William and remained as attractive as when we first met. The years treated Sarah well, maintaining her slim figure, complemented by long, appealing legs and a shapely bum. Despite her attractiveness, She maintained a professional and conservative demeanor. Our lifestyle, deemed by some as boring, involved spending most of our time together at home, attending movies or family events with our daughter. We were always together as a family, never going out alone or without each other as a couple. I received a call from William, her boss, informing me that Sarah would be honored with an award at a banquet the next month, and both Angel and I were invited. I proudly accepted the invitation, revealing to Angel that her mother would receive an award for professional excellence. Since it was a surprise, they wanted us there, and usually these meetings were for staff only. We were asked to keep it a secret until the award ceremony. In the last 5 years since Sarah started working for William, she consistently delivered excellent work, contributing to her increased happiness at home and boosted self-esteem. I knew she worked hard and was well liked in her company, and now, hearing about their desire to show appreciation made Angel and me proud. Sarah informed us about an upcoming business meeting at the Ritz-Carlton downtown, where she had to work late and give a presentation to the entire company. She looked forward to it, having spent many hours preparing in the weeks leading up to the event. At the time, she was unaware of our invitation or her award, and Angel and I kept it a secret. We could hardly wait for the event and Sarah's award. I took Angel shopping for a new dress, and I bought a new suit to ensure she would be proud of her family at the award ceremony. Sarah wore a knee-length dress with a back cutout, balancing professionalism with showcasing her beautiful curves. At 37, she remained attractive and desirable. Before the limo picked her up to make arrangements for the meeting, Angel and I hugged her, wishing her luck for her evening presentation. With 2 hours to get ready after she left, we both dressed on time and left to be at the event. About 30 minutes before Sarah's presentation, one of the hosts greeted us, seating us at a central table with a clear view of the stage. Angel and I received special treatment, with everyone expressing their love for Sarah and delight in meeting us. We felt so welcome and happy to be there for our wife and mother. The lights in the audience dimmed as the introductions began. On stage, spotlights flickered as the first speaker introduced the firm's founder, the CEO, and then William, the senior partner. William provided a concise overview of the company's successful year, and then introduced Sarah, who was tasked with sharing some of the past year's achievements. Sarah graced the stage, radiating beauty as always, and I observed Angel's pride in seeing her mother commence the presentation with a professional and practiced voice. Sarah delved into the company's excellent year, its accomplishments, and future projects, speaking for approximately 10 minutes before returning the stage to William. Before her departure, Williams embraced her, delivering a few words to the audience. He highlighted the close collaboration with Sarah over the past 5 years, emphasizing her integral role in the organization. He expressed conviction that some of the successes outlined wouldn't have been possible without her. William then honored Sarah with the Chairman's Club Award, the company's highest honor, reserved for employees going above and beyond the call of duty and recognized for their commitment. Sarah received a sizable plaque and an envelope containing a $10,000 award. With tears in her eyes, she accepted the check, embraced William, expressed gratitude to the audience, and turned to Angel and me. Our eyes welled with tears as we shared the pride in her mother's achievements, and those at our table offered hugs, creating one of our most joyful evenings. Overflowing with pride and unable to suppress our smiles, we headed for a drink as the lights came on. Taking my daughter's glass, I assured her I'd be right back. At the bar, amidst long lines, I spotted an empty one near the stage and decided to fetch a double jack and a soft drink for Angel. In high spirits, I threw $5 into the tip jar, collected my drinks, and turned to return to my table. It was precisely at that moment when my world fell apart. On the way back, something caught my eye, leading me to witness a couple behind the curtains, engaged in a lovemaking embrace. Initially deeming it out of place for such an event, I recognized the dress, the same one Sarah had worn that night. I turned once more, frozen in place, observing the couple sharing a heartfelt kiss. The embrace conveyed a familiarity beyond the moment, suggesting this wasn't their first lovemaking encounter. It felt as if I were having an out-of-body experience, standing frozen with 2 drinks in hand and my mouth agape. I watched until the couple separated, confirming that it was indeed the love of my life sharing a romantic kiss with her boss, William. In that moment, I dropped one of the drinks, drawing the lover's attention. Sarah saw me and appeared shocked. As I returned to my senses, I turned and walked back to the table with the remaining drink. Sarah caught up, explaining the situation, and in a daze, I nodded and sat quietly with a sorrowful expression. For the remainder of the evening, it was evident that I was distressed and no longer able to share in the joy around us. I witnessed more than a friendly kiss, and in fact, Sarah and I hadn't kissed so passionately in years, over 5 to be exact. Reflecting on those years and the changes that had occurred, I sensed trouble looming, though I wasn't certain of its nature at that point. Driving home, Angel and Sarah discussed the night, with Angel expressing pride in her mother. Still reeling from what I'd seen, I remained silent, lost in my own thoughts. Both girls noticed my reticence, attempting to coax me into conversation, but I maintained a persistent silence. Sarah, sensing the unease, tried to make amends with sweetness and extra affection, but I wasn't receptive. That night, I made an effort to conceal my emotions from Angel. However, being perceptive, she sensed my distress and sensibly allowed me to be with my thoughts. Before bedtime, she expressed her support, mentioning that she was available for a conversation. After a hug and a kiss, she went to bed. I silently withdrew, and shortly thereafter, Sarah joined me in the room. She inquired about my well-being, expressing concern. Despite her attempt to comfort me after a minute of silence, I chose to turn away. Apologizing for the situation, she pleaded for communication, but I lay silent, anger replacing my initial shock. I refrained from speaking, realizing any words would be hurtful and unproductive. That night, her attempts at affection went unanswered, and I endured the worst sleep. The next morning, a Saturday, I opened my eyes to sunlight, anticipating a challenging day. Recalling the distressing scene, I tried to make sense of the situation. Climbing out of bed, I went to the bathroom, washed, and brushed my teeth. Returning to the bedroom, Sarah sat up in bed, watching me and trying to act normal. "Good morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well?" she asked as if nothing had happened. I ignored her question, donned a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and before leaving the bedroom, I looked at her, speaking to her for the first time since the kiss. Turning to her with a hateful look, I uttered, "How long?" which she didn't answer, merely looking at her hands. I left her, heading out for breakfast and some time to think, ending the conversation feeling a little distraught. I anticipate changes and dread hearing what she's going to tell me about her affair. She knows she has to tell me the truth, because she knows if she lies, I'll know. Sarah and I have been very close, and she has never given me any reason to believe that she wants another man. I haven't noticed any change in her closeness, and she still hugs and kisses me all the time. How can she act like that when she's having an affair? I mean, if she's with him, how can she show me all this love? Can the woman I love really have an affair with William? I glanced at the clock, aware that Angel was supposed to be at school for math club by 1 p.m., realizing it was time to face it. I drove home and found Sarah on the patio with a cup of coffee, staring out at the lake. Without saying a word, I poured myself a cup, sat down next to her, and asked her those 2 words again. "How long?" After a few minutes of silence, I noticed tears running down Sarah's face. The revelation that followed sent a shiver down my spine and caused a stomachache so intense that I almost felt nauseous. In a soft, tearful voice, she mentioned a span of 3 years, I inquired, seeking confirmation, and she affirmed, mentioning the nights I worked late. "Yes," she whispered. I sat in silence for a few minutes before finally breaking it. My attempt at understanding led to the conclusion that the 2 nights she worked late every week for the last 3 years were the only time she had been lovemaking with William. Seeking clarification, I asked if my understanding was correct. She affirmed, stating they had never engaged in such activities anywhere else, and expressing a desire to explain more when given the chance. I expressed my response, urging her to withhold any explanations. She had just disclosed her involvement with her boss 2 nights a week for the past 3 years. The arithmetic was simple, over 300 instances, assuming a minimum of twice a night. I confronted Sarah, emphasizing the gravity of her actions, over 500 times of betrayal behind my back. I questioned the possibility of any man enduring such knowledge. Tears streamed down her face onto her lap as I continued. The depth of my hurt unfolded as I reflected on the potential mockery they shared, picturing them laughing at my ignorance. Expressing my gratitude with bitter sarcasm, I acknowledged the profound humiliation and intentional pain she inflicted. The person I believed loved me had betrayed our marriage and shattered my heart, an unexpected and devastating revelation that left me profoundly wounded. She insisted, saying it wasn't as it seemed. I didn't buy it. Disrupting her attempt to explain, I instructed her to be silent. Ignoring her pleas, I stood up and left the porch. As she remained seated, crying and begging for me to stay, I maintained a composed exterior. However, internally, I felt an explosion of emotions. To gain control over my turbulent feelings, I went for a ride. The sense of betrayal was unfamiliar and overwhelming, and I needed time to process her words and decide on my course of action. I needed to talk to someone, and the only family I had left was my brother Tony. We were very close growing up, but we took different paths in life. Tony spent 5 years in a federal prison for medication trafficking and moved in dangerous circles. By comparison, I was a churchgoer, an accountant who paid too much in taxes and didn't even have a parking ticket. Tony and I didn't talk very often, but growing up, Tony always looked to me for support. I was there for him during his trial, and thanks to my political contacts, was able to get his sentence reduced from the mandatory 20 years to 5 years. That morning I called him. I inquired about Tony's well-being and caught up with him. Subsequently, I disclosed the challenging situation I was confronting. Of course, what's up? I conveyed the difficulty of the situation, disclosing that Sarah had cheated on me and I had just discovered it. Experiencing hurt and pain, I detailed how I was aimlessly driving around and emphasized the necessity of talking to someone. I apologized for burdening him with my problems. "Oh man, I love Sarah and I can't believe she did this. Do you know who did it yet and what exactly?" Acknowledging his disbelief and love for Sarah, I admitted that I knew who was involved but lacked all the details. I disclosed that it wasn't a one-time occurrence and expressed a strong desire for revenge against the person responsible. The intense anger I felt even made me contemplate damaging my wife. Tony offered his advice, drawing on the experiences of many friends who had gone through similar situations. He urged me to release my anger by engaging in physical activities like going to the gym or jogging. He emphasized the importance of calming down and allowing him to assist me in navigating through the challenges. Tony encouraged me to confront the situation by gathering all available information and deciding on a course of action. He assured me of his support in executing any plans I formulated. Advising me to keep my words minimal and act as normally as possible, he acknowledged the difficulty of the task. Finally, he instructed me to call him the next day with updates, assuring me of his continued assistance. Expressing gratitude, I thanked Tony for his help and conveyed my intention to call him the following day, bringing our conversation to an end. On the drive, I passed a mattress store and had my first idea. I parked in the lot and made the first move. I had no intention of leaving the marriage until Angel was in college, which meant I'd be married for the next 2 years. There was no way I was going to sleep with Sarah again, and I'd be damned if I left my bedroom. So I had my first action plan, which made me realize there was a lot more to do. After meeting with the salesperson, I told them I'd pay full price if they could deliver the 2 full-size beds I had just picked out, along with all the furniture, including the headboard and all the hardware and assembly. I paid an extra $100 to have the current king-size bed dismantled. I paid, and we arranged delivery for 4 p.m. That afternoon, I texted Angel to let her know I'd pick her up, drove to her school, and waited in the parking lot. We went to lunch, and I gently explained to her that there would be some changes in the house in the near future. During our conversation, Angel inquired about the events at dinner the previous night, expressing her awareness that something had occurred. She requested not to be kept in the dark, emphasizing the importance of maintaining the honesty we had always shared. In response, I acknowledged the fairness of her request, recognizing the difficulty of the situation and her right to know. I revealed that I had observed her mother and her boss kissing backstage, offering the perspective that it might have been a congratulatory gesture. I downplayed the significance of the kiss, suggesting it shouldn't be a cause for intense anger. Following my confrontation with her mother, she admitted to having an affair with him for 3 years, a revelation that I found difficult to comprehend. I conveyed that this revelation had forever changed our relationship. Angel then questioned whether I intended to divorce her mother. I explained to Angel that I hadn't decided on divorce yet, and that I was still working through the situation. I reassured her that we would remain married, but things would be different. I emphasized the importance of her being strong and not taking sides, reminding her that her mother loved her. I acknowledged the mistakes her mother and I had made, but expressed the desire for Angel's life not to be adversely affected by them. I asked her not to judge us and to understand that we loved her more than anything. Throughout this conversation, she was in tears. She was aware that revealing the truth had caused me pain, and though I didn't want her to feel guilty, she insisted it was necessary for Angel to understand why our lives were changing. When we returned home together, Sarah was surprised. Judging by Angel's expression, it was clear that I had shared the information. Angel, in response, gave her mother a disdainful look and retreated to her room without uttering a word. I explained to Sarah that Angel had a right to know, and it was crucial for her to comprehend the reasons behind the impending changes in our household. I suggested that Sarah explain things to Angel once she overcame the initial shock. Concerned about the future, Sarah inquired if I planned to divorce her. I assured her that it wasn't an immediate consideration, as I wanted to observe how things unfolded, especially considering Angel's well-being. However, I affirmed that significant changes were inevitable. Beginning from that day, Sarah pleaded with me to allow her to explain and implored me to understand, emphasizing that she loved me and that we were husband and wife. I confronted Sarah, pointing out that she had willingly engaged in an affair with William over 500 times without my knowledge. I expressed my disbelief that she believed there was anything she could say to gain acceptance from a self-respecting man. I questioned her perception of my strength and suggested that she hadn't thoroughly considered the consequences of her actions. I revealed that what truly hurt me was the loss of the closeness that I had once cherished and looked forward to. I declared that I could no longer share that closeness with her, and I conveyed the impact it would have on me emotionally. I stated that I would no longer go to bed with her or make love, and I expressed the sorrow I felt in losing the small gestures of affection like kisses and hugs. Acknowledging the inevitability of changes in our relationship due to her breach of marriage vows, I declared that, like her, I would no longer be faithful and would seek other lovers. This was a departure from my previous stance, as I had never considered such actions before. I concluded by asserting that she could continue seeing her lover because she would no longer receive anything from me. It was as if she had received a blow on the head and physically withdrew from my remarks. She lost her balance and dropped onto the couch. Startled, Sarah had obviously not realized the consequences of her infidelity. I communicated to Sarah that I couldn't agree to remain faithful after her betrayal, considering the magnitude of her actions. I expressed my intention to seek other relationships, a decision influenced by the pain caused by her cheating, lying, and infidelity. As the conversation unfolded, the doorbell rang, providing a timely interruption. I welcomed the installers who had arrived to remove our shared bed. I explained to Sarah that, as a result of our strained relationship, I had purchased 2 new beds to replace the old one. The installation process was already in progress. Sarah questioned the presence of the installers and the reason behind the changes. I clarified that since I had decided never to share a bed with her again, it wouldn't be fair for either of us to move into the guest room. Therefore, I had bought 2 separate beds. Our current bed was being removed, and new ones were being set up. I informed her about the option to exchange her mattress within 90 days if she didn't like the one I had chosen. In response to these revelations, Sarah inquired with surprise, "We're going to sleep in separate beds?" I explained to Sarah that it wouldn't be fair for either of us to give up our shared bedroom, especially since our closeness had come to an end. I expressed disbelief at the situation and the necessity for the changes that were taking place. In response, I reminded Sarah of her affair with her boss, emphasizing that it had occurred over 500 times behind my back. I watched as the men removed the bed we had shared for years, feeling a mix of pain and regret. The regret stemmed from being married to someone who had betrayed me so profoundly. The following day, I called my brother Tony, revealing the shocking truth about Sarah's affair with her boss. I expressed my astonishment at the revelation that she had been involved with him twice a week for the past 3 years, amounting to over 500 instances. I admitted to feeling blindsided and humiliated, uncertain about how to proceed. I sought information about the identity of the man involved in the affair. I disclosed to my brother Tony the identity of Sarah's boss, William Aston, and expressed my deep dissatisfaction with the situation. Tony sympathized, acknowledging the unfortunate circumstances. I then shared my desire for William to experience significant suffering for his role in the affair. Tony asked about my plans regarding Sarah, and I expressed my intention to divorce her once our daughter Angel was in college. I revealed my plan to make her life difficult until then, shutting her out and ensuring a lonely existence. I emphasized my determination to expose her actions and ruin her career if she attempted to initiate a divorce before Angel started college. Concerned for my well-being, Tony offered to take care of William Aston while I managed affairs at home. I cautioned him against engaging in any activities that could lead to legal trouble and insisted on handling my situation responsibly. Tony assured me that he understood and promised not to take actions that could jeopardize his own safety. We concluded the conversation with the understanding that we would talk again soon. The following weeks were stressful. At home, Sarah tried to engage me in conversation, but I refused to answer her more than a word or two. I could tell. She was frustrated and tried to help me forgive her, but I was still hurt, angry, and unyielding. I buried myself in work, came home late every night, and wasn't home on the weekends. Tensions were high, and everyone was walking on eggshells waiting for me to explode. When I came home one night after a long day at work, I found Sarah in her bed waiting to talk to me. After all these years of sleeping with the only woman I loved, I was now sleeping in a bed just a few feet away from my Sarah's. It was sad, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do this for the next 2 years, until Angel left for university. After my shower, and as I lay down in bed, Sarah initiated a conversation, asking about my day. I responded briefly with a simple, "Good." She expressed a desire to discuss some matters and acknowledged that she knew I wanted nothing to do with her. Despite that, she conveyed her love for me and expressed a willingness to make small improvements in our relationship. She proposed the idea of quitting her job, suggesting that we didn't need the extra money and that she could be more present for me. She asked for my thoughts on the matter. Despite my efforts to control my anger, her attempt to use terms of closeness triggered a rage in me. I sat up and spoke harshly, expressing indifference to her decisions and urging her to do whatever she wanted with her life. I made it clear that I no longer wanted any romantic involvement with her. Tears welled in my eyes as I conveyed the emotional impact of her actions. As I rolled over and rested my head on the pillow, I heard Sarah sobbing, realizing the depth of the pain I felt. She pleaded for an opportunity to talk, acknowledging the sorrow and regret she felt for her actions. She expressed her continued love for me, the anguish caused by our lack of physical connection, and the heartbreak from the perceived coldness between us. She confessed her uncertainty about how to fix the situation, but emphasized her desire to salvage the relationship. Sarah also mentioned the toxic tensions in the house and expressed concern for our daughter, Angel, who seemed affected by the strained atmosphere. She suggested the idea of counseling to find a way to coexist without hatred, urging me to consider it for Angel's sake, as her departure from the home was imminent. I sighed, acknowledging the fairness in Sarah's concern for Angel, realizing that our daughter was going through a difficult time. After a brief pause, surprising Sarah, I agreed to attend therapy, emphasizing that my motivation was solely for Angel's benefit, not Sarah's. Sarah, visibly moved, interpreted this as progress, and her tears shifted from sorrow to happiness. The following evening, Sarah informed me that she had found a therapist and planned to meet with her individually. The next day, she mentioned arranging a couples meeting for Friday at 3 p.m., recognizing the necessity to find a way to coexist without a prolonged divorce process. I agreed with Sarah's decision and acknowledged that living in peace was essential. Angel expressed excitement upon learning about the counseling sessions, hopeful that they might bring her family back together. Her smile, absent for weeks, reappeared. Sarah shared the news with me, stating that Angel was pleased about my agreement to attend couples counseling. Every night after work, I dined alone, intentionally avoiding spending time with Sarah. However, the absence of my daughter, my Angel, during these moments left a void. I longed for the warmth of her smile, the comfort of her hugs, and the endearing way she called me Daddy. Despite my desire to distance myself from Sarah, the yearning for a connection with my daughter tugged at my heart. Sarah went to her solo counseling session and was wiped out that evening. When I got home, I found that she had been crying, and I realized that it was probably hard to tell someone that they had cheated on our family for years. Somehow I had no sympathy or compassion for the woman who had broken my heart. My brother Tony called me later that week to tell me what was going on. He explained that he was still owed some favors from his former acquaintances, and that the debt they owed him was not in cash, but in favors for what he had done for them. He told me not to bother, that everything was in control. After contacting one of his associates, Tony explained the situation. They understood and told him they would take care of it and let him know when it was done. Tony explained that they did want to hurt him, and they wanted to leave it so he would remember it for the rest of his life. He left it in their hands, and he knew it was not going to be pretty. Tony gave them the man's name, the place where he worked, and his phone number. That was all they needed, I guess. When Sarah told William that I had found out about their affair, he was heartbroken. He loved Sarah and the way she made him feel. Apparently, they considered themselves a couple when they were together and shared their love during that brief time alone. After their affair became a habit, neither of them believed that their few hours a week could hurt anyone. They were simply two friends spending some time together. Both believed that their spouses never gave up anything or missed their love and time. It was only a few hours a week, and neither spouse missed their short time together. It was the perfect relationship that gave them the excitement and extra love that had been blunted by many years of marriage. After the initial meeting with Dr. Winters, the counselor, our session commenced. As expected, the counselor took the lead in initiating the conversation. She addressed me, expressing gratitude for my attendance, and acknowledged that Sarah had already shared her perspective during their meeting earlier in the week. Dr. Winters emphasized the importance of honesty in my responses and assured me that everything discussed during the sessions would remain confidential. She encouraged openness, reassuring me that nothing I said would be shocking to her. I nodded in acknowledgement, curious to see how the session would unfold. The counselor, Dr. Winters, prompted Sarah to share her intentions for the counseling sessions. Sarah, my unfaithful wife, turned her attention toward me, her eyes filled with tears, and expressed her desires. She conveyed a strong longing to communicate with me, rebuild our family, and restore the physical and emotional connection we once had. Her emotions were palpable, and I sensed the sincerity in her words. Although it was difficult to witness her pain over the loss of my love, I maintained composure, sitting quietly as she wiped her eyes with a handkerchief. When asked by the doctor about my goals for the sessions, I expressed a desire to eliminate the haunting significance of the number 500 from my thoughts. I noticed Sarah's reaction, a wince and averted gaze, as I mentioned the number. In response to Dr. Winter's confusion about the number's significance, I adopted a sarcastic tone, referencing Sarah's prior session with the counselor. I questioned Sarah about omitting this detail, prompting the counselor to request a more coherent explanation. I clarified that, being an accountant, numbers held particular importance to me. I revealed that, over the past 3 years, Sarah had engaged in lovemaking activities with William over 500 times without my knowledge. This revelation had left an indelible mark on my consciousness, making it the first thing that came to mind whenever the number 500 appeared. After each outburst, a period of silence ensued as emotions settled. The counselor, addressing me as Mr. Park, expressed understanding of my pain, but cautioned against using hurtful language. I offered an apology, acknowledging the necessity of expressing my pain and perspective. Sarah, in tears, repeated her apologies, and my anger subsided as I finally relaxed. In response to the counselor's question, I expressed a desire to find a path toward forgiveness for Sarah. My ultimate goal was to create a home devoid of hate and anger, especially for the sake of our daughter. I emphasized the need to live together in peace, recognizing the impact on our family. I thanked the counselor for the opportunity to share my sentiments. Over the next few weeks, I managed to speak in a friendly tone without the venom. Things at home were much better. Not good, but better. Angel was home more often. We went out to eat, went to the movies, went out with friends, and tried to be a normal couple. The only problem is that everyone noticed that there was no closeness between us at all. I never held her hand, we never kissed, and I never let her hug or touch me. Several friends asked Sarah what was wrong, because our affection was the exact opposite of what everyone had seen in the last 15 years. It was obvious that we were having a hard time, but we kept going. 2 weeks into our initial couples session, there was an intrusion at William's residence. Unidentified men entered, swiftly administered a beating without disclosing their motive, and promptly left. William was later taken to the hospital. Upon learning about William's incident, Sarah was thunderstruck, aware that I desired revenge and was somehow involved. That night, recounting how someone broke into her boss's house and attacked him, Sarah watched for a reaction. A small grin flitted across my face as I responded, "Wow, that's something," and resumed reading the book in front of me. Struck by my indifferent response, Sarah's inquiry about my feelings for William struck a nerve. Looking up, I glared at her and retorted, "Oh, I am so sorry your lover got hurt. Do you want me to send him flowers, or should we go see him, darling?" She looked away, and the conversation ended. Sarah sensed my responsibility for the incident and knew that expressing remorse for William could undo all the progress we had made. Earlier in the week, I received a text from Tony with a thumbs-up emoji marking our last contact for several months. As things cooled down, I wondered if the police would uncover their affair and question me about the attack, but that never transpired. The police put the report on an open case file and shifted their focus to other crimes. Several months passed, and as promised, I began dating and going out late. After Sarah quizzed me about my activities a few times, she realized she should mind her own business and avoid causing problems. I clarified that we were husband and wife in name only, cohabiting for the sake of our daughter. We eventually found a way to remain civil, and family life was improving. Sarah finally comprehended the extent of the hurt she had caused her husband, acknowledging the irreparable nature of the damage. To keep the family intact, I warned her that I would inform her family and friends about her affair and make her life unbearable if she pursued a divorce. Before Angel left for college, Sarah remained legally married but emotionally alone. She lacked someone to reciprocate the love she once gave through hugs, kisses, and affection, defining her relationships with 2 men. This love was now lost. Despite attending counseling alone, her husband's enjoyment with another woman intensified her sadness. Sarah, driven by vanity, selfishness, and stupidity, had destroyed her marriage and the man she loved. Angel, despite still loving her mother, reminded her that she had brought this upon herself every time she complained about her father. Angel would never forgive her mother for hurting her father, but her love for her mother endured. After Angel left for college, I returned home with divorce papers. A year earlier, I had contemplated ruining Sarah's finances, but I opted for an equitable split over the last 2 years. I forgave her, but the love I once felt was irretrievably lost. Sarah, unsurprised by the divorce papers, signed them without protest, relieved at the prospect of starting anew. Having learned her lesson, she vowed never to cheat again. The painful divorce from the woman I loved left me full of remorse for the events leading to our separation. I yearned to undo it all or find a way to forgive her, but the memory of the 500 betrayals haunted me. We sold the house and divided the equity. I moved in with Trisha, a dancer 15 years my junior, whom I had been dating. My confidence and happiness restored, I finally found peace. Sarah never abandoned hope for reconciliation and wept for weeks upon learning of my marriage to another woman. Unable to forgive herself for the damage caused by her selfishness and hubris, she dated but never recovered the lost love. Weight gain, faded looks, and bitterness characterized her lonely life. Angel and Sarah maintained closeness, but my communication with Sarah dwindled. She would never relive the love shared with her wonderful husband and bore the pain she inflicted on her loved ones. Ensuring Angel's college was funded, she became a psychologist, driven to help others. She now enjoys a happy married life. The lessons learned from this experience are profound, illustrating the lasting impact of a beautiful yet damaging past.